He didn't believe him. Didn't even understand what that was. Come on, I was with the Vietnam War ending in 1973. I was a year old, and so other than my dad, and uh, he was in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam War. He didn't go to Vietnam, but his friends and growing up around those people. Other than that, I didn't know a whole lot about war. It was right after Reaganomics, and the Reagan administration was coming in. He had just taken over from Jimmy Carter, and there were enormous oil field booms. The economy was doing really good, and so I don't think there's really a reason, I guess. But I didn't really know that much about war. And when our drill sergeant took us down that night, because this stuff's going overseas, he said, there's going to be a war. And in fact, his name was Drill Sergeant Brown. This dude was hard. It was all through AI basic training. And I thought, okay, we're doing a lot of running, we're doing a lot of exercise, and we're always going to push it, we're tired all the time. I couldn't wait to get out of basic training and get over to El Paso for AIT, where we might even get a weekend pass, or get to go do some stuff. I was always in trouble, so I didn't get a weekend pass. In fact, I think I might have got two the whole time I was there. But air defense artillery, we shot down airplanes. That was our job, and it was phased out right after I left. But I was trained on. My MOS was a 16 Papa. We were Chaparral crew members. It's kind of ironic because the Chaparral's a New Mexico state bird. But no, basically it's a track with 12 missiles, heat-seeking missiles, and so it's got a turret on top. It's got 4 missiles. That was my job, which was actually on its way out. The technology was getting old when I was there. They had just came out with the Scud missile, and one of the guys I trained with in El Paso, his name was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. His name was Glover. He was a pretty cool guy. Well, he got to train on the Patriot missile when they first came out with the Patriot missile, and I got to talk to him. We had seen him out at the range. We were out at the White Sands missile range, but it's McGregor range. I know the White Sands missile range and McGregor range. Tiburon, New Mexico borders on McGregor range. It's just a pretty big part of the desert that's set aside for the military out there, and most people have heard about White Sands. Huge. But we were out there, and so Glover was telling me about the Patriot missile, and by then it wasn't, I don't say top secret type stuff, but it was new, and they were experimenting. They sent it over to shoot down airplanes in the Middle East during the Gulf War, and they ended up shooting down Saddam's Scud missiles, a missile to shoot down another missile. So that was a pretty big deal. And then they had the Vulcan was there, and then the Red Eye Stinger, that was coming out at the time. That was a pretty nice little. That's very entertaining to watch when they shoot off a bat, which is like basically a rocket, and then when the rocket's going, well, you use a missile to shoot down the rocket. And so that was pretty interesting stuff going on while I was there. And but no, I was in the Army National Guard program. I had signed up I had scored high enough on the ASVAB test that they let me in. I'm not a genius, but I scored high enough on the ASVAB test. I'll tell that story sometime. It's kind of a deal, but so I decided I wouldn't do anything else in my life. I had dropped out of high school at the time. I was dropped out my senior year and decided I'm going to go to work on the drilling. So I lied about my age, went to work on the drilling rigs, just started hanging out, partying, didn't really have anything going on, and making really good money until they found out you're underage. So they sent me a paycheck and said, we don't ever want to see you again. And I was like, okay, fine. So back then, to get a job in the oil rig, you just go down and take your name and you hang it up in the local laundry. Because the oil field guys who worked on the rigs, the drilling rigs, like back then, ain't like now. You go to a drilling rig now, you may even find 100 people on location living there, working there. It's a big operation. Back then, if everybody showed up for work on time, they weren't sober or on drugs. Most people did drugs. Then you might have a 4-man crew for a 12-hour shift. If it was an 8-hour shift, you'd like evening tower, morning tower, and daylights. You would work different things. But for the most part, it was kind of like the Wild West type of deal, but you can make a lot of money, really good money working on drilling rigs. So I just went down and hung my name up as, that I had experience doing this. I knew a lot about the rigs from growing up around my dad working on them, and so I had a pretty good idea about it. So I just went down and lied about my age, put my name up and said, hey, I'm a derrick man. I eventually became a derrick man, but I didn't even know what it meant done. So I showed up, and basically they put me to work, and you got to have pretty thick skin to go out there. They'll hurt your feelings, basically, especially if they find out that you don't know what you're doing. And so, but hey, they got to have a hand. So I went out and I put my name up as I know I'm all over the map. I put my name up on the wall. Um, they have a bulletin board in the local laundromat. That's where you go to wash your greasers. Greasers are your clothes that you get from the oil field because you don't want to take them home and wash them in your wife's laundry. She will shoot you. You can't even go home at my house. My dad couldn't. You don't come home and go in the house with your work clothes on. That just didn't happen. And it's not that we had a really beautiful house or anything. You just don't go in the house with the oil field clothes on. There's been several times my wife would make me strip outside. She's like, "No, mister, get it off." And then you come in after you take your clothes off. You don't wash them there. So you go down, and when you're there, the oil field people go to the laundromat to wash their clothes. Well, if they need a hand, the thing would be to pin up your name, a piece of paper with your name on it, and they would just tear off your number. And then in the event that somebody twisted off, which was like every single day, somebody didn't show up for work, well, they would just give you a call and say, "Hey, you ready to go to work?" They would tell you, "We're picking you up." So you always had a lunch packed, and you always had your clothes ready so you could catch out. You make more money as a catch out hand than actually being on a crew because so many people twisted off. They're always needing somebody. Well, I just went down when they fired me. I went down and put my name up on the bulletin board again, and I was still getting calls from people even after they found out, like, "Hey, kid," it's like, "We know you're not supposed to be out here, but we need somebody." And I was like, "Well, come on, I'll go." And they would have to pay you because you worked. They don't want to get sued. But they didn't have very good screening, and things were a lot different back then. Nowadays, illegal aliens, they call them illegal aliens, immigrants, whatever you want to call them. It's really hard for companies to use those people because of the way things are. And underage people. Man, I grew up, my uncle owned a roustabout company when I was 14 years old. I had my first real man's job when I was 14 years old, working for a Basin Lease, Roustabouts Welding. What was the name of it? It was Basin Lease Service, Roustabouts Welding and Backhoe. My uncle owned the company here in Carlsbad, New Mexico. And me and my cousin worked for him in the summer. We were 14. You go try to get an oil field job now, you're 14. You can't even get in a training class. You can't even take a first aid class to work in the oil field when you're 14. It's just unheard of. But that was in the summer. And it was a family-owned business, so we managed to get away with it, and we got paid. And that's what got me hooked on the oil field stuff. And so I thought, man, I'm going to make so much money. You know, the oil field people making, it's crazy. In some situations, 4 times what my school teachers were making. It's like, why would I want to sit here and do this boring stuff? Come on. We want to go out and do Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn type of stuff. So I'd go to work on the rigs and I got money. Well, I decided that wasn't right. My dad was talking some sense to me. He was like, "Boy, you need to get back in school." And so I scored high enough on the ASVAB that I decided, hey, I'm going to go join the Army. And they said, "We'll let you in." The recruiter was all happy to see me. He's like, "Hey, bro, come on, let's talk." And so he said, "Listen, we have a program." And he said, "We can get you into the military." And I was like, well, I was out for an adventure. I didn't want to go back to school. And he said, "On the grounds that you'll sign a piece of paper saying that you'll go back and finish high school because you're only 17. So I did. I signed the paper. I went down to El Paso. I went to the MEP station. I got checked out, and they said, "Yeah, you're not broken. Come on, you can get in." I swore in. It was actually a buddy of mine's idea who's actually retired from the military today, but at the time, the guy's dumb as a rock. Not dumb, but I'd say not educated. I think he scored like a 13 on the ASVAB when he first started. A 13 is really bad. I had an 88. I had a friend who had a 99. He's kind of a genius. But I scored an 88, and they said that was a good score. I was like, well, I didn't know what the ASVAB was, but at the time, my friend said, "Hey, we can sign up on the buddy system and we can go through together," because he dropped out in the 9th grade. He's just running around living life on mom and daddy's dime. A little bit different than my situation, but nonetheless, he said, "We can sign up for the Army. Let's go in the Army. Let's do something with our lives." And I was like, "Okay, let's go." And I went to El Paso and went through the MEP station, swore in, got back home, and I was like, "So, hey, how did it go with your ASVAB testing?" And he said, "I failed." And I was like, "Well, we signed up on the buddy system. I already swore in." And I said, you're going to go retake the test, right? And he said, yeah, I'm going to go retake it right now. And I called the recruiter, and the recruiter said, your friend's dumb as a rock.